It's Pat Windrow here at the Cable Easel, bringing you a program which is, the whole thrust of it is to work from life. And whether it's landscape with a camcorder or a video recorder, or if it's bringing something into the studio to work from life, that's what the shtick is. And so today, this is a study, a floral study, which I have, well, maybe whimsically called Secretary Week, because it seems that there is an interesting phenomenon going on in the business world, that one particular week during the year, secretaries are supposed to be appreciated overtly by gifts at the desk. And so here is a sample of the kind of thing that tells of that particular affection and appreciation. And it usually comes from a florist, and certainly not from the boss's garden. So it comes from a florist, and pretty. They are pretty. They tend to all look very much the same, but they are nevertheless a breath of color into what sometimes is an oppressive environment on a daily basis. And so here we have the opportunity to take one of these floral arrangements and see whether or not they can provide an interesting composition. If I find that at the end it's a little bit too florist-like, I'm going to add something to it, and maybe that will be a lesson of interpretation and improvisation on a very familiar theme. Because I'm married to musicians and I gave birth to musicians, I think that variations on a theme are very important. So here we have what is called a pyramidal composition. In other words, it goes in the shape of a triangle, as a pyramid. I'm working with a tinted canvas and some pale color to place these objects, and I'm just going to show you very quickly how I do this, because I'm going to apply the paint almost immediately, but I want to show you how you would generally just lay this out and make sure that you pay attention to the fact that it is a pyramidal composition. Here's the little white daisy. This is the big pink gerbera daisy. Here's the carnation, and here is another little white, I believe that's a chrysanthemum. And so living in this absolutely remarkable world in which you can get flowers that you're supposed to only bloom in the fall, and you get them in the spring, it's very much like having strawberries in February, a phenomenon which is of course due to technology. And here the placement of these flowers, and all of a sudden you can see that the pyramid design has taken place. And that's the whole point of these floral arrangements, that they do tend to go by a book of designs, and therefore they tend to be very much the same. Not that they're not appreciated, because they are, but I just think that if you are going to be involved in flower painting, you have to understand that maybe the possibility is that if you use a floral arrangement, you will have paintings that look very much like everybody else's flower paintings, because they may all go and use the same floral arrangement. So it's always a very good idea to be original. Being original is going to be manifested in this point if I find that I'm not fond of the general florist shop look of this particular painting, and I will add something to change it. Here is the pyramidal composition with the little rectangle on the bottom, which is, interestingly enough, it's a vase. And on the vase is printed the calendars of the month. 3 months on this side, apparently there are 4 sides, so we've got 12 months. Doubtlessly because secretaries are expected to be very conscious and aware of the days of the month. There they are. That one is for, well, I guess it's November. Anyway, somebody manufactured that thing with this in mind. And far be it from me to make any remarks about that. It is apparently extremely efficient and more than likely considered quite amusing. So here we go. I'm going to begin to apply paint. This is going to be done in 2 parts, and hopefully I can keep you interested enough to be able to make you understand that that flower painting can in fact be as well as a literal interpretation of what it is, but it also can be very improvisational. Now, carnations are a real nightmare, because you really can't decipher what a carnation is or what it does. It's got entirely too many petals, it's entirely too wonderful smelling, and it adds an enormous amount of wonderful design to any flower arrangement. So we will just use carnations for their wondrous contribution to everything. I mean, they have everything going for them. They are abundant, they come in many colors, and they also are one of the most extremely fragrant flowers that there are. They are impossible to paint, however, and many times I decide, well, carnations is not what I'm doing in this arrangement. However, they were here, and I wanted to, and I need to just pay attention to the fact that they do have some rather intense shadows, and a carnation has to be improvised and interpreted in a very loose way. There is a nice stray brilliant one sticking out here, which tells me that once again they do have a mind of their own and they are not going to be fooled around by anybody. Here is hopefully looks like a carnation. Well, maybe that could be a little bit more pointed there, and a little bit more carnation-y here. Okay, that's one. Now all we have to do is to really work our way down towards the bottom of this painting, and in order to do that I'm going to just follow it like I would a map. Otherwise you find yourself in really serious trouble about how to decipher this. So the fern is obviously a very intricate, but with the proper interpretation, it can be done rather quickly, and also very recognizable that that's what it is. They have stems that are opposite one another, and they have a variety of color. This one happens to have pale yellow in the middle and dark on the outside of it, but the interpretation is what I'm after, and if it works, then fine. Otherwise I'll go back and refine it. But the position of the brush, of course, is vital when you're doing forms that have a specific design. So if that passes for a carnation, well then let's go on to the next one. However, I'm a carnation, I mean a fern. Either that, or I'll just put some darkness on the outside of this to give you the idea that I have in fact observed it, and might be a little bit more fern-like if there is green there. The bottom of the carnation has got some shadow, which is barely visible, and then I believe the argyrotum, which is a wonderful flower because it's tiny and it gives a lovely little design to an otherwise in small quantities, and it also dries very nicely. The argyrotum is a wonderfully variety of flower, because if you grow these and the fall comes, you can in fact dry them, and they will be preserved very nicely throughout most of the year, which is something that maybe not many people know about argyrotum, that they dry very, very well. So in here, and then there's going to be some more green interpretation, which is somewhat the background for all the rest of it. So here is as you can see, these arrangements are difficult to decipher because there's so much going on, but you do prepare the background for the thing which is the baby's breath, which I believe is called gypsophila. And I sometimes have that confused with the name of that tiny fly, which is Drosophila. But the little white baby's breath is called gypsophila. Not that I'm a florist, nor am I a botanist, but I certainly have been painting flowers long enough to have been able to find out the names of an awful lot of them. The argyrotum has got a brilliant purple, very small but very effective little flower, and that can be done with just one touch of the brush. sometimes there are clusters at the end of the branches, but the argyrodum is if you do flower arrangements, you understand the tremendous value of argyrodum. There's a little bit of purple down here too. So here is the immortalizing of a little thought process that takes place in offices all over this country at a particular time of year. I've always found it wondering whether or not there would be a day designated to Boss Day, whereby flower arrangements would be brought in to the boss and put on his desk. I wonder how that would go over. It's possible that this could introduce another another element to the celebration of secretaries by having Boss Day. Either that or the work that the secretary does all year takes care of all of that. Here is this Gerbera daisy, easy to grow, wonderful to paint and interpret, and comes in a wonderful variety of colors. This one happens to be pinkish mauve, and very lush. They come from Africa. The Gerbera daisy is definitely an import. It was not here when the Redskin Indians were here. These were definitely brought in, more than likely by a florist entrepreneur, because they are a native African flower. They are absolutely incomparable for flower arrangements. As you can tell here, they add tremendously, and a pink daisy, of course, is absolutely unheard of. But it isn't unheard of because here it is. And I have found that Gerbera daisies are rather easy to grow. They will come up like any daisy, but they do need to have the right warmth because they are African. And the center, of course, is yellow, and a nice interpretation of that is very simply done. There is a little bit of green in the center of that, which you've got to pay attention to. So here we go. I'm working my way down towards the center of this arrangement. It's all very green underneath there, and the green has to be put in first of all because it's the preparation of any background. It can be done loosely or it can be done very carefully. I would prefer to have the background and the preparation for the other flowers done in an interpreted way, so it doesn't rob the interest from the flowers. The fern, of course, is ever present, and there is darkness playing in here, and shadows and so on, all under this, and when it gets covered up with the arrangement, then it's all perfectly acceptable to have it so loosely painted. Because all this green is now prepared here, I'm washing out the brush, and I'm using quick drying, MG's quick drying white. I'm going to use this directly from the tube. This is for a little, I believe these are, well, now wait a minute, carnation? No, not carnation. What is the little football flower? It'll come to me. I'm being tested here, but anyway, this is a daisy-like, but it isn't a daisy itself, and it has a nice lot of spiky things, which gives some nice balance to the otherwise rounded shapes of some of the other flowers. As you can tell, there is a nice feeling about these flowers. They are all sort of clustered together for an extremely well, it's so pleasant to have this kind of thing available at all times of the year. There we are. Now, there is going to be a need for me to take a slight break here, but I'm going to put this other yellow, sort of daisy-like flower back here. Chrysanthemum, I believe, is the word I was looking for, and here they are in the distance. Not unimportant. It has to be as carefully interpreted as the ones in the foreground, because they do, after all, afford the look of the flower arrangement, which is what this is. This is a flower arrangement. It's not in the garden. I really like to paint flowers in the garden, but when there's an arrangement, then you do it, and you learn a great deal from arrangements. You learn what looks well and what looks less well. So the flowers crowding against one another is also a very interesting problem. Here is some in the distance with a little bit of gray in the paint because it is in the background, but it is nevertheless there. Well, I think that are we ready to take a break now? I think so. Okay, let's take a break, and I'll be back because I need to clean some of these brushes. See as I'm using very pure color. I have to keep the brushes very clean. I'll be right back. Back again to wind up the first part of this study of a flower arrangement. This is the right time of year to do it, and the opportunity of Secretary Week is what prompted this, whereby this kind of a thing has been found on many desks throughout the country this week in recognition of the valuable presence of secretaries in this amazing business country that we live in, whereby productivity and business take place on a daily basis in the millions and millions and millions of hours of toil and labor and volunteerism, actually, a lot of it is. Now, here we have underneath here is another little carnation, which, as I mentioned earlier, is an impossible flower to paint, and therefore you do the best you can with it. This part of it is in shadow from that little daisy above it, and its brilliance is going to take place in just a second, as soon as I get some pale color on it. So the need to pay attention to the shadows of even something as complicated as a carnation is going to give you the third dimensional look that you need. That obviously is a shadow on this flower. When I did a program painting daisies, that I had made the arrangement of the daisies in one of my own vases. I mean, not daisies, pansies, in one of my own vases. It did not look like a florist's arrangement, which does not mean that the florist's arrangement isn't perfectly acceptable. It's wonderful. The business must be the most delightful business in the world, to come into your shop in the morning and just work with flowers. I'm sure it's also extremely tedious. But anyway, the look of a flower arrangement from a flower shop is unique and very much its own. I don't think that I know of anybody who can make a flower arrangement at home to look like a florist's arrangement. So that's why I picked this to see whether or not I can either improve it or simply accept it as the way it is. The flower business is a very lucrative and a very difficult business to be in. I know a number of florists in New York and in Virginia, and they have an enormously difficult task to first of all to please the public, which is the most difficult of all, and then secondly to be able to have the suppliers of these wonderful and interesting flowers that come from all over the world. The flowers that we have available to us from the florists are coming from every section of the world, bar none, because of the advent of the airplane and this extraordinary fast delivery that can take place. So we do have the opportunity to have things such as these Gerbera daisies that are in this arrangement, and to have the common flowers such as the gypsophila, which is the baby's breath, which I think I'll just put in right now. It is a lovely little it's almost a non-existent something, but it's the stars, in my opinion, in a bouquet of flowers, and it's also the stars in the garden. If you have these little flowers lining the path of your garden, you will find that it looks as though there are fireflies in there, and their little white presence is absolutely charming, and of course they last forever, which is a florist's dream, from what I understand. But they do give a pretty flow to any kind of an arrangement. The center of this Gerbera daisy, which of course I think has seen better days, it looks like it's a little bit tired, but it nevertheless has a wonderful looking, very lush center, and there is a shadow cast on that as well. So we pay attention to just about all things in these arrangements. Underneath here, with a sort of a yellowish tone, it may not look yellowish on the monitor, but there is another chrysanthemum hiding in the background here. That's going to get covered up with all sorts of things, but this is all part of the clustering of flowers in these arrangements. I'm using not a new medium, but I'm using a medium that I have just now found to be helpful. It is a drying and painting medium called archival oil, and it's available in all the art shops, and it's probably something to reckon with. I've been using an expensive medium, which I find is not only expensive, but getting extremely hard to find. The ingredients come from Greece, and there is a lead base, and of course the environmental people are getting after the paint manufacturers to stop producing things that have a lead base. A small wonder, I can understand that. And so I'm trying to revise my need to use these lead-based paints. The lead, of course, is an enduring medium. That's why paintings that are 400 years old with lead bases are 400 years old, and they seem to be impervious to age and to cracking. So when lead is now going to be banned, then I shall have to be finding something else, and I think I have. It's called archival oil, and here it is, less expensive and seems to work quite as well, just as well. California has instituted a lot of laws about things that you can or cannot buy in the art stores, because paints have proved to become so toxic, and there are so many things in it that are literally harmful to the health that there are certain products that you cannot buy in California, and New York and all the other states are coming along with that too. A lot of them are epoxies, which have bases of very lethal substances such as toluene and so on. So the manufacturers are now revising their manufacture of some of these paints. We're hoping, the painting community is hoping that the change in chemicals is not going to affect the durability of paints, because painters are interested in having their work last, not 2 weeks, not 2 months, but 400 years. I'm interested in knowing that the things that I'm spending time doing are going to be around for a very, very long time. Maybe it's a terrible ego trip, but nevertheless it's wanting to put effort in something that's going to be around. So I'm glad that they're zeroing in on the bad stuff, and that the people are aware of it. However, you have to revise your thinking, and so this archival oil may be the answer to some of the problems. As I'm going along with this now, the painting is going from top to bottom, just like I predicted it might. One of the flowers has already changed shape. This Gerbera daisy is no longer as open as it was, but I'm going to leave it alone. Time does that and changes the shapes of flowers as you work. But and that is nothing to be concerned about. Coming down towards the other flowers, let's see, what have I got here? Yes, I've got another daisy, but that one is a little bit mauve, and so these pure colors out of the tube are what I call my glamorous tones. Dioxidine purple, a ridiculous name for a color, but that's what it's called, and it's made purely of chemicals. Oops, too dark. This is a much paler tone here. And there's nothing quite like being able to dip into this remarkable chemical purple to get really the color of these glamorous flowers. And so this is the Gerbera daisy pale part, and just adding a little bit of alizarin crimson and some purple, dioxidine purple from the tube, I get the shadowy color of this daisy. And that daisy is now looks closed. It looks like it's closed because the shadow part is up against the brilliant part. There is another one directly in front of it, and it's sort of like a wallpaper flower. It's just frontal in its composition, and that's fine. The observation has to be made that it's in a different position. So here we have a tremendous variety of tone and shape and color, and the crowded effect is what is difficult in a flower arrangement. When people are working for it, they find this very confusing. As I say, it has to be done in layers, and that's why I started from the top and worked my way down, because I can put the flowers in as I see them progressing down what I call the ladder of the arrangement. There's a little bit of lightness around this part before the yellow takes place. So this is part one, obviously, of a two-part program. Part two will be the final conclusion of this painting, and maybe an interpretation of mine to change it, which is, of course, all within everybody's right to do. As the creator, you are allowed to interpret and to change. Hopefully to the benefit of the product. The center of a Gerber, a daisy, of course, is just a wonderful piece to look at, and sometimes the whole flower arrangement is enlivened by the presence of that yellow center of the daisy. As I say, we progress right along, and there's now need to, and I hope that whatever I'm doing here is of enough interest for the audience to be able to remain with me throughout this this experiment, not experiment, but this, well, it really is a lesson in how to approach this kind of a painting. I do, having spoken briefly, or maybe not briefly enough, about the painters over the centuries who have been interested in flower painting. It's possible that this kind of demonstration can maybe enliven the interest in amateurs, total amateurs, to try and do it. But there is something very daunting about seeing a very complex arrangement in front of you and not knowing where to begin. So that's why I'm doing this, to let you see where you begin and where you go. There is a very short time left on this one, and by the time the next program comes, I will probably be taping this directly after this taping is over with, so that the flowers are the same. I certainly won't wait a long time between them, but you will only see this part one day, and then you'll see the next part another day. So I understand that's the way that program Jeopardy works. You win, and then you go upstairs, and then you play again. You don't wait till the next day. So I'm glad that you watched. I hope that you got something out of it, and by all means, if you have any questions about what I'm doing, write to me here at the station. They're very happy to get mail from all sorts of areas that we are now covering most of Long Island, and whenever we get a postcard from far away, we're as happy as we can get. So see you the next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.